Welcome back to the Sleeper Sports Media Podcast. My name is Nick Wietosh. This is episode 43. Will be available on Apple and Spotify when I'm finished here recording this. I know it says live in the corner there. It's just a graphic I'm working with. Graphics brought to you by Canva, and of course the podcast itself. The streams always brought to you and powered by StreamYard. We're going to get right into it. Lots and lots and lots to talk about the world of sports, wrestling. Being the big one. I know the Prime card was last weekend. Didn't get a chance to go over that at all like I would have wanted to. But we're going to get into it with some wrestling going down over with starting with Monday Night Raw. Episode 43 recap of Monday Night Raw, NXT Halloween Havoc Night 1, AEW Dynamite, and preview for SmackDown and Collision. Raw was a bummer. It was kind of a letdown after the last 3 episodes. They've been really, really good from the very beginning, start to finish. All 3 hours kept my attention, everything, even with all the rematches that they do. And that didn't stop here. The main event, Jey Uso versus Damian Priest of the Judgment Day. I went to sleep before it even started. And that pretty much sums it up. A lot of good stuff on there. Becky Lynch and Indy. That was a good match. Becky retained and then went on to NXT, and we will get to that later, but went on to NXT to face Lyra Valkyria. NXT Halloween Havoc Night 1 was, I think was better than Raw. Seth and Drew did their thing. Overall, the card was okay, but I mean, I don't understand why they keep doing rematches. Everything kind of just got repetitive and felt repetitive after the New Day and Alpha Academy match. And then eventually the Tozawa and Bronson Reed match, which was just, I mean, what are we doing with Tozawa that you're going to throw him in with the Alpha Academy and make him look like, okay, this might be going somewhere. Then all of a sudden he gets squashed by Bronson Reed. It doesn't make sense. NXT Halloween Havoc Night 1 ended with an appearance from Jade Cargill and new NXT Women's Champion and new NXT Tag Champs. Chase U on one hand, I don't care about. I think that's where NXT is still corny than any other brand of wrestling. I guess NXT is developmental for a reason, and they're going to develop better gimmicks for some of the talent on NXT. Speaking of tag champs, the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven stopped by. They've now held those titles for over 100 days, and they are just as irrelevant now as they were the second that the Iconics won the titles off of Bayley and Sasha at WrestleMania 35. These titles have been absolute hot garbage ever since then, ever since the pandemic when Bayley and Sasha lost them for the final time. The only time they had relevance was when Bayley and Sasha had them, and they were running both brands as the tag champs and the Raw Women's Champ, and then the SmackDown Women's Champ. They got to figure out something to do with these titles. The random tag team, I think it was, can never remember their names, but I'm pretty sure they were drafted to SmackDown. Now all of a sudden they're back in NXT challenging for the women's tag titles on NXT when they were the NXT Women's Tag Champs, and then they were unified with the main roster ones. It's just the whole thing is stupid. Let's get rid of the women's tag titles and make it a mid card women's title. Point blank period. I mean, Chelsea Green and the whole Karen act is getting old. Piper Niven, I don't quite understand why she is back on TV and is a champion. And again, why she is being included in that 100-day reign when she just picked up the titles because one of multiple partners of Chelsea Green got hurt. The titles are nothing. And I thought they were doing this whole thing with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn of they cursed the titles and they were coming for them. And the whole thing is stupid. Like I said, Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch for the NXT Women's title main evented the show. and Becky lost her title reign of 40 days with 9 defenses across all 3 brands, premium live events, on TV, defended it all over, elevated the women's division on all 3 brands, or did what she could to do that. A lot of people think that she buried Tiffany Stratton. A lot of people think that she was just the main roster going down to NXT to win it and then bury all of the upcoming talent. I don't think of it that way. I enjoyed it, and it gives Becky Lynch the accolade of NXT Women's Champion, now a Triple Crown World Champion, and the women's tag title run. I still think her and Charlotte should have a run with the tag titles as partners, as friends again before they retire, and ultimately each of them being the one to induct the other into the Hall of Fame. I gotta say, Raw was a 3 out of 5 at best, and then NXT Halloween Havoc Night 1 was a 5 out of 5. Then we get to Dynamite in Philly. Kicked off with MJF versus Juice Robinson for the Dynamite Diamond Ring, and MJF retains it, wins it again. Now a 5-time champion. That's pretty cool to see. Sting's surprise was the Nature Boy Ric Flair. That was interesting. I wasn't watching Dynamite, and then I saw the Bleacher Report pop up, and immediately was like, okay, I got to watch this. Ruby Soho lost to Shida for the AEW Women's title. Not a fan of either one of those two. I can deal with Ruby Soho, but the other one, Shida, I don't understand the hype. Not a fan. Jericho says he has a bigger friend that he can call and deal with the Powerhouse Hobbs situation. Guesses I saw on Twitter were Big Show or Goldberg. Then we had Christian Cage, Nick Wayne, and Luchasaurus interrupt Sting, Darby Allin, and Ric Flair after the surprise segment went down. More than likely, it's going to be those 3, Nick Wayne, Christian Cage, Luchasaurus versus Sting, Darby Allin, probably Adam Copeland as well, since they were seen backstage. He was seen backstage with Sting after that whole thing went down. Don't think Ric Flair is going to be getting in the ring in AEW. I don't think that's going to happen. Then we go to, I saw the segment today after MJF's match. Kenny Omega came out. They had a face-to-face, and a challenge was laid down for Collision, which was then accepted by MJF. So I finally am going to watch Collision, the whole show, on Saturday. Can't wait for that. Haven't watched a full episode since, can't even tell you the last time. Was going to go to an episode of Collision in State College, but they whole big thing with work went down and whatnot. That goes into the main event later in the night. They announced that there will be a December pay-per-view for AEW in Long Island, December 30th, a Saturday pay-per-view in AEW. The AEW presents World's End. This makes me think, because of pending free agents come 2 days later on January 1st, that World's End could be another end to this era of AEW, because people could leave, people could stay. It's all up in the air, more than likely. The big one, I think, being MJF. Could he lose the title? If he doesn't lose it at Full Gear, could he lose it at this pay-per-view? And then that way there's no him playing the whole, I'm going to take this title and go here. I do think on January 1st, he is going to have his phone ready and waiting for whoever calls. WWE, Nick Khan. I mean, he said he would go to Impact, he would go to WWE, he would stay in AEW, he would go anywhere besides New Japan, and I don't blame him one bit. This December edition pay-per-view is kind of interesting to me, because they are just adding more and more every year. In 2019, they started with 3, Double or Nothing, All Out, and Full Gear. 2019. Then we went to 2020, they added Revolution, and then kept Double or Nothing, All Out, and Full Gear. In 2021, we got the same amount, 4, Revolution, Double or Nothing, All Out, and Full Gear. Or 2021, sorry. And then in 2022, they added Forbidden Door and kept Revolution, Double or Nothing, All Out, and Full Gear. Then we get to 2023, and they again for Revolution, Double or Nothing, Forbidden Door, we add All In and keep All Out, and then add Wrestle Dream, Full Gear, and then World's End. And that so far, 3 pay-per-views are confirmed for 2024. No locations besides All In. My guess would be All Out will be in Chicago again as well, since Tony Khan did say he plans to keep doing the All In and then All Out the same back-to-back weekends. Revolution, no date, time, or location. All In will be August 25th at Wembley again, and then Wrestle Dream with no date, time, or location. This is up to at most 8 AEW pay-per-views a year. My question is, when are we going to see them switch from Bleacher Report pay-per-view to just streaming on Max, and you include AEW pay-per-views with the yearly subscription, or put that into what a monthly subscription for Max would cost? I can't wait for that. I will be getting my Max back as soon as they announce the first one is coming to Max. No doubt about it. I will pay the $150 again for the yearly Max subscription when and if they would bring AEW content to Max, which I think it's got to be happening soon. They offer live sports now, so I could see it happening by 2025. However, if they do stay on pay-per-view for the foreseeable future, I could see, once the Peacock deal ends with WWE, I hope it's not true, but I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it's not true. But I could see them possibly following Endeavor and the UFC and their plan of pay-per-view, going to maybe ESPN Plus and partnering that way, that they always do a WWE pay-per-view the same weekend that they do UFC. Maybe not the same cities, but they do it where you get a bundle. If you buy the UFC pay-per-view, also included in that is WWE. I would pay $80 for combined, 40 for the UFC and 40 for WWE. That would be, I mean, you would have less people. You would have more people watching both and less people probably pirating or getting illegal streams for either one. That is still years away, and with the Peacock deal and all that, I would love for them to stay on Peacock as well. I mean, obviously it has to have worked for them. Max could make it work for AEW. I mean, eventually, if the UFC would do something like this, it would be, they would get even more people watching and less illegal streams. Other pay-per-view news, I guess I didn't take note of to mention, but Showtime Boxing is apparently done. They are, I guess, shutting down. They're apparently, I've been seeing that they're in debt or something. I don't know. That came from the Misfits team and Twitter trolls, whatever. Showtime Boxing is done. That is, I have not been a boxing fan long, but I got into boxing solely because of Logan and Jake Paul. And the first couple fights that I watched for them were on Showtime. The last couple for Jake and for Logan, this past one, was on DAZN. I don't care for DAZN. Don't like the whole pay X amount for the membership, pay X amount for the pay-per-view, bundle it, and then be charged this amount a month later, and then you forget to cancel it, and it's dumb. Let's just do simple pay for the pay-per-view like they do on ESPN Plus. And having to have an ESPN Plus subscription and then to buy the paper, that's dumb as well. It's no wonder that people are doing illegal streams every weekend. Every time there's a big time combat sports event. It's ridiculous. Endeavor did, however, say back to the WWE and UFC and the weekends of their events, they have come out and said that they would like to do one full weekend of SmackDown on Friday, UFC on Saturday, and then WWE on Sunday. That would be insane and so much fun. And then you come into play, what happens when you got a UFC pay-per-view on Saturday. You got Collision on Saturday, and then you have a WWE pay-per-view on Sunday, and the same Sunday you have an AEW pay-per-view. What the hell am I going to do then? I'm going to need 3 or 4 TVs running at one time. And I'm for it. I know my wallet will not be. Their AEW, like I said, they primarily have their pay-per-views on Sundays, and now Collision on Saturdays. What's going to happen in December at World's End when you got Collision running against? Are they going to even have Collision that week? Are they just going to do the pay-per-view? They got to figure out something. I wish they would drop Rampage and make Collision their 2-hour time slot on Friday. I would rather watch them compete head to head with SmackDown. I would still watch both. I would throw one up on the TV, one up on the laptop. Boom, I'm good to go. I do think it will be quite some time before we see a full competition weekend of AEW versus UFC or versus, UFC and TKO, I guess I should say. Again, I'm here for it. My wallet won't be. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I mean, there's some other big pay-per-view and premium live event news before we get into SmackDown and Collision. The WWE has announced an event for next August 31st in Germany, the Bash in Berlin from the Mercedes-Benz Arena. And everyone's immediate thoughts were, oh my gosh, this has to be headlined by Gunther as the World Heavyweight Champion facing someone else. But who says he's going to win the title before then? Why not have him win it at that event against Rollins? Have Seth hold it the whole way through and give some prestige to it. Give a lengthy title run to the inaugural quote unquote heavyweight champion. I know it continues the lineage of the old one or it doesn't, whatever, it's back and forth. But I mean, Seth Rollins and Gunther, they have history for this for a title in Germany. Back whenever they had their first match at NXT or one of the Raw episodes when they went over there, I think it was with Rollins as the WWE champion. I don't think it was with the Universal one yet. But Seth Rollins dropping the World Heavyweight title to Gunther in Germany, that would be huge, versus him winning it at some point and then defending it there. However, if they were to defend or drop it from Rollins before then and have Gunther win it, have Gunther be the one to win it, I think Gunther versus Ludwig or whatever his name is at the Germany event, that would be huge as well. And there are also reports going out that Backlash will be headed to Paris, France. So they're going to continue to do the Backlash events. My guess that would be after WrestleMania. So upcoming overseas events, we've now gotten Saudi Arabia once or twice a year. We got London, and now we're getting Australia next year, possibly Paris, France, and then we got Germany also confirmed. Also add Puerto Rico to the list as well for Backlash from this year. Pro wrestling is going global, and it's truly amazing for the sport. I don't care. I've said it a couple of times. Wrestling today is better than it was in whenever. Wrestling today is a global event, a global phenomenon like it has never been before. Triple H has said it. Cody Rhodes has said it after the press conferences. There's nothing better than the product today. Yes, it's repetitive. Yes, sometimes it is corny. Overall, it's still better than what it was. We get the dream matchups of Forbidden Door with AEW and New Japan, and eventually it's got to happen. WWE and AEW, at some point, they have to make this happen. It would be bigger than any WrestleMania, than any Wembley Stadium event. It would be a cross-promoted, the biggest event for wrestling in the history of the sport. And I think both companies should and could get behind that. And think of the money, think of the fans, the storylines. It would be, I mean, there's potentially could be no bigger show than a Forbidden Door AEW and WWE cross promoted event. I mean, the Forbidden Door now is great for the New Japan, for the fans that watch New Japan and the fans that watch AEW, but there are fans that only watch AEW and don't care about New Japan. I go over these dream matches, potential dream matches that I have personally all the time. There are so many that you could do, so many ways you could do the build for the pay-per-view. You could do it where you have stars going from each show on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. I mean, the possibilities are endless. You could do the title just alone, title versus title on each brand or each promotion, the World Heavyweight versus the World AEW, the Undisputed Universal versus the second biggest name of, I mean, at this point, a dream match has to be Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns versus Jon Moxley. The Shield back together again in the ring would be insane. And then you got, Kevin Owens versus Eddie Kingston. You could do a War Games / Blood and Guts type match to get even more to get the factions involved. Judgment Day versus the House of Black. That's on there. Tony Storm versus Liv Morgan. Charlotte Flair versus Bayley versus Becky Lynch versus Mercedes Moné. Bring her in to the AEW side versus a Britt Baker. Make that a 5-way. I mean, the possibilities are absolutely endless. Adam Cole and MJF versus the Brawling Brutes. Hangman Adam Page versus Finn Balor. Bullet Club Gold versus the OC. Bryan Danielson and Drew McIntyre again. The New Day versus the Hardys. Cargill versus Asuka versus Britt Baker, or one of the other women's talents on the AEW side. Wardlow versus Braun Breaker. You could do it head-to-head in a Survivor Series type match of SmackDown talent takes on Collision talent. Raw talent takes on Dynamite talent, and NXT talent takes on Rampage talent. There are so many ways to do this that you could do it the whole week and then end it with matches on the pay-per-view. Even do Collision and a pay-per-view in the same general area, or pre-tape Collision and then have segments go into the pay-per-view. There's just so many ways you could do it. This would be all the matches I just said are absolute dream matches that I think about all the time and off the top of my head, planning and booking wise. But we're going to get back to reality, go into SmackDown, a preview for this week, which is on FS1 because of the World Series. We got Roman Reigns returning for the contract signing versus LA Knight, with LA Knight for their match at Crown Jewel. Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar versus the Street Profits, and I believe they did show John Cena would be there. That's all that's advertised as of now at 7:22 on Thursday. And again, most of the talent will be flying over to Saudi at some point this weekend or early next week. So there will be a double taping. It will be a double taping of, SmackDown. So the go home episode will be Friday, that will air this Friday. And then the episode that will air the day before the pay-per-view will be the taped one. My guess will be more Crown Jewel matches will be made. Probably Cena and Solo, maybe throw Bianca on the card. My guess would be she might enter, they might put the SmackDown title, the women's title onto the Crown Jewel card, maybe have Bianca back in that picture right away. Probably what they're going to do. I don't necessarily want them to do that. I think she needs to come back and have other feuds than just coming back and jumping right into the title picture, because then you just have another Charlotte Flair on your hands. She just comes back, immediately goes back for the title, but no one's going to say anything about that because that's not Charlotte Flair. I think Charlotte needs to win 15 soon and then have Jade Cargill win the Rumble and face Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. And then you could get into Jade as the champ versus Bianca, Jade as the champ versus Becky, Jade as the champ versus whoever. But I think Jade should be the third undisputed women's champ. Should go Io, Charlotte, and then Jade. Crown Jewel, as of now, goes as follows from Wikipedia. The order is not necessarily the running order or who will be main eventing, but they have the World Heavyweight Championship: Seth freaking Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. The Fatal 5-Way for the Women's World Championship: Rhea Ripley, Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and Raquel Rodriguez. Then we have the undisputed WWE Universal Championship: Roman Reigns, of course, with Paul Heyman. All is good for the wise man lately. He's back to feeling better. He was finally able to buy some hair dye and get the gray away. He doesn't look like he's losing his mind every single week without his tribal chief there at the arena on Friday nights. Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman versus LA Knight. And we got, of course, the United States Championship: Rey Mysterio versus Logan Paul. I fully believe, I'm not going to do my prediction video for Crown Jewel until next week, but I fully believe right now, with everything in me as a journalist, as an analyst for wrestling, Logan Paul, I think, has to and should win the U.S. title, and it would be absolutely incredible. Rey Mysterio and him are going to put on a banger of a match, and then after that, I think they need to do Logan and Dom versus Ray and Santos, or Ray and someone. Ray and Bad Bunny. I saw someone say that Ray would want to do Bad Bunny and him versus Dom and Logan, which I think would be good. I'm not a big fan of Bad Bunny, what he does in the ring. He's good, but I don't get the hype for him. Bad Bunny to me is what Logan Paul is to everyone else. He's good, but I don't think Logan is an actual athlete. He's a boxer. He's been an athlete his whole life. He's always done what he does in the ring. And yeah, he hasn't been a fan his whole life like Bad Bunny, so I can get why they did bring him in. He wanted to do it. It worked. He is good in the ring. There's no doubt about that, but I don't care for his type of way into the WWE. Again, my predictions will come later for this one. And then you got Cody Rhodes versus Damian Priest. Cody is just getting thrown into another random feud to hold him over until the Rumble, and then again, eventually until Mania, when I think he's going to be the one to face Roman at Mania for the title yet again. Sadly, more and more days go by, I don't think The Rock versus Roman will ever happen. Or maybe it might happen on night 2. They don't need the title for this one. Roman to lose the title on night 1, which I think would tie Hulk Hogan's main event record of 8. And then for him to main event night 2, which would then be 9 against The Rock. The stories are there. You could do it. Yeah, Roman's loss would be shocking. And then he goes into night 2, and then he ultimately, does he beat The Rock then if there's no title? Because then another loss with Roman would be even more like what just happened. Moving on from Crown Jewel and those fantasy bookings of mine, we're going to go on to Collision to wrap up. I haven't watched it in so long. Like I've said, last week I watched a little bit, and then I saw Jeff Jarrett and Eddie Kingston in the street fight, and it was corny. Why are old men like Jeff Jarrett still getting into the ring and still doing these types of matches? It's ridiculous. Eddie Kingston deserves better. And again, the only thing um, promoted right now is MJF versus Kenny Omega for the World Heavyweight Championship. After last week when MJF whispered into Omega's ear, 13 days, bitch, referring to his title reign and everything like that. And then in the segment that confirmed and made this match, accepted by MJF, Omega closed it out and did his catchphrase, shook MJF's hand, pulled him in, and said 3 days. Little head games back and forth with these two. I do like this, that they have the world title booked for Full Gear, the pay-per-view, which they did it. That was the first match that they announced for a whole month and a half ahead of the pay-per-view. We're still a month out. The pay-per-view is on November 18th. But they're going to do, and they're doing Jay White, what is mixed in the story of MJF stealing his belt, whatever. And then you got Kenny Omega to put a side quest for MJF to be the one to break the all-time AEW world title reign, the most days as champion, to do it on a TV episode of Collision on a Saturday, nonetheless. And then what happens after that is are we even going to get a finish in that match? Is it going to go down where there will be a finish so Kenny Omega can, quote unquote, defend his chance, like he said in the segment, to protect his reign, his record, his streak, whatever? Or is Jay White and Bullet Club Gold, are they going to come out and get involved? And then ultimately, the way WWE would do it, they would set up an impromptu tag match of MJF and Kenny Omega with whoever else coming out to help them against Bullet Club Gold. Hopefully there's a clean finish, whatever. MJF wins and then goes on to break the all-time record. And again, this is the only thing so far promoted as of Thursday at 7:31. Then we got, I will absolutely be watching Collision probably for the first time in months. This is going to wrap up the episode 43 of the Sleeper Sports Media podcast. As always, thanks for listening, watching, following along across all my social media platforms. Did half an hour. That's pretty solid. Was wanting to try to go an hour, but I don't have it in me to ramble on for an hour by myself. More on my next episode with the solution to that. But across all my platforms, Facebook, the Sleeper Sports Media group and page, be sure to like and follow both. I'm trying to grow on there. The page, I believe, is at 66 or 65 follows, and it's at I don't even know how many likes it's at. Also on Facebook, the Exceptional Sports News group and page ran by my boy Keenan. Should go show him some love. Follow and like both. Join both groups I mentioned. And then my Twitter and TikTok are both at SSM Weetosh. Instagram and Threads is still at N Weetosh, all lowercase. And now the Sleeper Sports Media podcast is now finally on Apple Podcasts. I finally figured out how to get it up there, get it onto there. Still on Spotify as always. And this episode will be available on the audio platform shortly after this is all wrapped up. Thank you to StreamYard for being the program that makes this all possible to put out to Facebook, put out to YouTube, Twitter, and all the other platforms that are available. Again, so wrapping up, finishing off real quick. Next week's episode will be the Crown Jewel preview. And fingers crossed, I hopefully am joined by a new guest to the channel. But you'll have to subscribe to Sleeper Sports Media to find out who that is so you don't miss it. Subscribe big time on YouTube, pushing to 600 subscribers, as well as trying to get those watch hours up as we hit 500 today. Trying to grow on Facebook as well, and now on Twitter. Twitter's at 700 followers. Would love to get to 800 by the end of the year. Pretty solid gain on that front. TikTok is another one trying to grow. Gonna maybe throw some clips onto Twitter or TikTok. Might just keep doing the shorts. As I make a short, I'll just throw them onto there. That's what I've mainly been doing. For whatever reason, I cannot seem to keep the follows staying on TikTok. I went from 408 down to 405 for like 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden I dropped down to 396, and now I'm back up to 399. Instagram is the same way. I'm at 577. I can't seem to break the 580 mark or even get past anywhere past that. But Facebook and YouTube, along with Twitter, will be the main three that you will see consistency in going forward here, with the Crown Jewel preview and prediction video. And then that'll be on my channel with a guest. And then also the later in November for Survivor Series, we're going to be joined again, and that will be on mine as well as my guest for next week. But more on that coming later. Again, thank you for listening, watching, viewing, subscribing, following along. All the support is appreciated. Like it says down here in the ticker, feel free to donate for the brand, my brand, to Sleeper Sports Media. Keep the streams coming on StreamYard without the watermarks, without this and that. Not needed, but appreciated. Cash App, Sleeper Sports Media, all one word, lowercase, Venmo at Nick-Witosh. It helps to pay for the StreamYard. It helps to fund other stuff. It helps to possibly get the merch up and going again. I did have it last early summer, early spring, late spring. Would love to get that going again as I do more live shows and live streams and stream live where people can interact more than likely when I'm cross streaming with Keenan on his stuff and his group, the people from his group, as well as mine, the ones that are active in both. They can comment and whatnot. Possibly going to be doing giveaways of some Sleeper Sports Media t-shirts and hoodies, maybe hats, beanies. Who knows what's coming. But this has been episode 43. I do appreciate everyone who watches, listens, and subscribes. Please share this with everyone you know and help me keep on pushing to hit 600 subs on YouTube now, as well as all the other numbers that I mentioned from all other platforms. Thank you again. I will catch you next time. Don't hit that snooze button. Hit the sub.